When we're making our audiovisual presentations, we're looking to try to make them appealing to a wider audience. There's nothing better in my view than a good first impression, and the first impression starts with the opening titles. What we're going to do here is weave the opening title into the image itself. Now I've chosen this particular image, and just to give us something to view, I've put another similar one next to it. What we're going to do here is to have the text appearing out of the clouds. Now we can do that using a mask within Pictures-to-Exe. So with the image selected in the slide list, if we go to the Objects and Animation screen here and click directly into the grey area to lose the selection, I'm going to apply a mask here, and I'm going to go for a mask template. These are one of the templates that come with Pictures-to-Exe. Although we appear to only have two, of course once we've got a square like this, we've got any shape we want because we can adjust it, and the same with the circle. The circle could become an oval shape, either upright or horizontal. Here I think we're okay with a rectangle shape, and we do need a soft edge, but we can adjust that with the width of blur here, but I think a 50% blur is probably going to meet our needs. Let's see if that's the case by clicking OK. There we can see the effect of our mask. So before we start thinking about adding text, it may be a good idea to put the mask in the correct place. So I'm going to go down to my mask rectangle on the right hand side, and there you can see that checkerboard effect there is telling us which part of this image is going to be transparent. But when we apply text, that will all change. What I'm going to do is to move over to the Animation tab, and with the mask rectangle still selected, I'm going to use my up option here, the Y, just click and drag, because I just want to drop the straight edge here somewhere within those clouds. Now I think I would like a little bit more width here perhaps, and I can do that by zooming a bit and then moving this back up. What I'm going to do now is to place my text into the mask content. There's two sections to a mask, well three I suppose if we consider the mask container. But within the container we've got the mask stencil, which is what we've just been manipulating, but we haven't chosen the mask content. Now in the past the most obvious choice here would have been another image, but I'm going to pick up text. Right click, add, text or a hyperlink. Text is what I want. I'm going to type the title that I want for my slideshow here. Now I've just picked something out of the blue here, forgive the pun, but Forster is the place, and I've given these two images a blue tone, so we're just going to call it Foster in blue. Although it's spelt Forster, it's pronounced Foster, an odd place, but quite nice to photograph. Let's go back to the Animation tab for a moment. If I remain with my text here and go to my Pan Y, now you can see what we have. I can have my text coming up into the sky out of the clouds. Now we need to make sure we drop it down below the level we want, and of course if we wanted it to be slightly higher, then of course we can select the mask and we can move the mask slightly higher. So we've got quite a bit of flexibility here. Let me go back to my text and we'll just take another look at that. See, it's coming out of the clouds now a little bit further up, and it looks quite nice there because it's coming up into the darker area of the sky and it stands out nicely. So while you've got the first keyframe of the text, now's the time perhaps to make sure the text is the text you want, because in the properties of course we've got the opportunity to change the font style, the color, we can change the size of course, and also the content of the text if we decide we want a different title, but I'm going to stay with it much as it is for the moment and go back to my animation tab. If we're going to have text, and the text is going to appear from nowhere out of the clouds and rise up into that position, then we want the text to come to a stop before this image leaves the screen. So we may need to stop and think about our timings here, because I'd like to have the image on screen before this even appears. Now, I often talk about thinking through our animation and planning the animation. Not that difficult if we come out of here for a moment. I'm thinking here of our slide time. We know that unless we change the default transition, we've got 2 seconds for this image to appear on screen. I'd like to have at least 2 seconds, maybe even 3, before this starts to rise up from its hidden point. So let's say we want 3 seconds of this image, plus its 2 to fade on. So there's 5 seconds. How long do we want for Fostering Blue to rise up? 1, 2, 3 seconds. So there's 8 seconds. We're certainly going to want this on screen for 2 or 3 seconds, so there's 11 seconds. And then if we wanted to fade it out over 2, we're already up to 13 seconds before we consider maybe another couple for the image and then the fade out. So we could be somewhere up around 17 seconds here. Let's put that in and just see how that works out when we go back to the Objects and Animation screen. So the first keyframe then, I need that to be at the 5-second point, because from the start of this image appearing I want the 2 seconds fade on and I want to enjoy it for 3 seconds. But from here I need this hidden. So I need that to be moved down into the clouds, make sure it's well hidden. And I think I said probably about 3 seconds for it to climb up, so let's try that. I'll Alt Insert, which will clone this keyframe. So that one needs to be at the 8-second point. And of course between those 2 points we need our text to rise up into the position we want it. And we may as well think about speed now too. Do we want it to come up and slow down? I think we probably do. So let's go back to the first keyframe. We're only panning, so all we need to select is slow down. So once the text appears on screen, we've got to decide how long we want it sitting there. Well, I think I said 3 seconds, so let's put the next keyframe at 11 seconds. And between these 2 keyframes, of course, nothing happens. But now we want either this to drop back. We could do that, I suppose, but let's do something different. Let's put another keyframe in there with a clone. And from 11, 12, let's make that 13. We can fade the text off the screen. So it leaves the screen slightly different. And you can see it just leaves us a short amount of time and then the image will fade away. So coming back to the main screen of Pictures2Xe, let's look at the mini player. We can just press play and get a feel for the blank. Just a few seconds and the first image will open up. And that looks pretty good so far. And I think the text was on screen just about the right length of time. The only thing I felt was, and I suppose this is going to be different for all of us, but I felt it appeared rather quickly. And the only change I think I may want to make with the animation, if we go back to the Objects and Animation screen, is maybe between this point and, whoops, I shouldn't have changed that. Let's hit Control Z. That point and that point. I felt that was just a little bit on the far side. So perhaps I could do with either pinching a second here and having this one drop back a little bit, or I can add another second to the slide duration and move all of these forward 1 second, and of course moving a group of keyframes forward is quite easy. We just use the control key and select them, and we can slide them all together. I think just for speed here I'll drop this one back to 4. So all I'm really doing is giving that animation just 1 more second to rise from this point to where we saw it at this keyframe. Now in this particular image, by chance the white text looks quite good, but I'd like to share a little tip with you. If we wanted the text to be in colour, what we need to do is to go to the first keyframe, and I'm going to go to my colour correction options here. I'm going to add a filter, and we could add toning. We could add any tone we want, but I want to pick one. So I'm going to just pick sepia for the moment. It doesn't matter what it is. In actual fact, I probably could select one of these better because I need to see it, don't I? So I'm going to add the filter there, and we'll go to toning again and sepia. So what I was going to suggest here is I just click the color panel here, and I can change this to any color I wish. But down here I've got an eyedropper tool. If I click and hold that, and without lifting my left mouse click with the graphics tablet which I'm using here, I just keep my pen on the surface. As you can see, I can move on to the picture and I can pick a color from within the picture, and sometimes that works particularly well if we wanted to pick a nice shade of blue that's in keeping with the image itself. And even when we've used this option, when we see what we have, if we want it to be more or less the same but maybe just a shade lighter, well, we can move the little marker about here. So a nice way to get a colour for your text which is in harmony with the image that it appears over. Now just a moment ago I selected the wrong keyframe. Well, it's not exactly the wrong keyframe, but it's the wrong keyframe in relation to the fact that we can't see the text to gauge the colour. But I selected a sepia tone. I'm going to remove that. Now remember, the colour correction tools over here work with keyframes, which means that the only colour we've got applied is to the second keyframe. So the text actually is going to come up, well, it's coming up in a bit of a yellow colour there, and it's turning blue. But I actually want it blue all the way through. So what I'm going to do here is to go back to this option and just take a look at the values that we have. Here's a value here, look, 5D6973. I'm going to hit Control C to copy that. I can cancel it now. Now I can go back, add a filter, toning. Let's put grayscale this time, so it doesn't really matter. Click, pasting the blue, and click OK. Now the text comes up in the blue we chose. But of course the other keyframes are going to turn it back white. But we can get around that quite easy. We can just turn them off. So we could select all 3 of these now, because really this was the correct keyframe to place the colour. But of course I just chose that because that's where the location was most suited. But what I can do with those 3 selected is to say, well, don't apply colour correction. So from here we're telling the text it needs to be blue, and the other keyframes will work with the animation but not with the colour because we've just turned it off. Let's take a quick look to finish. A little bit more leisurely to appear in the sky. I think I could live with that, and the time on screen is good, the fade out is good, and of course at this point, even if we wanted to increase the slide time there, we have the opportunity to do that, and it will not impact into the animation we've just created. Now what else I can do here is to create a slide style so you get the opportunity to do a full screen preview on what you can see here and open this up exactly the same as I have it here. So you can use this image and go into the objects and animation screen and see exactly what we did. But I do need to tell the software that on this occasion, unlike a normal slide style where we want to apply the slide style to different images, here I want these images included in the slide style. And to do that, I need to make sure in the properties that I untick the main image. I'm telling the software here, this isn't an image that the user's going to select, build it into the slide style. And I also need to do the same for the next one if I want that included. So I'll remove the tick there. Now I can select all four of those, choose slide style, tools, create a style. I'll choose opening titles here and as a category, and I think we'll just call this one, may as well call this one Forster in blue, I think. Now you'll notice there's a difference here than in some of the earlier videos in this set. We've got two other panels, as you can see. One of them allows the author to put their name, but it also allows us to put a comment in the box for anyone who's going to use the slide style, and that's going to be quite useful. And I think those few words will do it. Select one blank image and apply this style, then run a full screen preview. Do that from the top of the page here. Let's create it. So let me simulate what's likely to happen when you first of all copy the slide style to your desktop. Then you need a blank in here. You'll need to go to your slide styles, of course, tools, and import the style. Once the style is imported, you will see it in this category, and there you can see the one we're looking for, and it's telling us we don't need any images here because we've designed this to be a demo rather than a true slide style. So let me select it, and there you can see all four images. Just select the first and preview.